Okay, going live, going live, going live. Oh, I need my abacus. I need my abacus. Okay, so here's my abacus. Okay, so here I am, having my abacus, and then this is my date, and then I gotta take this off. Okay, so hi. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna be counting 1, 2, 3, 4. What is this crazy thing? You know, the funny thing is, hey Dale, how's it going? Good morning, good morning. I hope you can hear me. Yeah. Good morning, Dale. What is this thing? This thing is an abacus. This abacus is going to help me count. It's okay if you don't know how to read it. That's what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to count on the abacus. Why is this the coolest thing? This is the greatest thing next to sliced bread. I'm telling you. Oh, good morning, good morning. So, good morning. My name is Lynette, and I want to show you how to read the abacus. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you notice, this is my horizontal bar. This horizontal bar tells me that all of these beads are being counted. Whatever beads are being counted, that is being touched. If the beads are being touched on the horizontal bar, then that's being counted. So right now, if you can see, this is 4. Just how we see on the die. Right? Just how we see on the die, and this is also a math manipulative, is they use die a lot, right? They use a die, and if this is 4, you know, this is 4. But if you notice, let me make that straight a little bit. There we go. Okay, so let me straighten out, and then this is 4. So if you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, we could see it. Boom! That is what supertizing is. So then we want to know, well, I have 4. I want to count to 5. Well, interesting thing about it is that's what the top bead is for. The top bead will always has a value of 5. Will always have a value of 5, which is kind of cool. Why? Because now we can count on, right? We can count 5, 6. Why? Because when the beads are touching the beam, these are being counted. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are talking about how to read the abacus. And I am super excited. It's kind of early for me. Where is everybody coming from? I'm actually in LA, and it's about 6 in the morning. I'm going to be on for a little bit, and then I got to get the kids ready for school. But I'm here to talk about abacus because I really like abacus, because abacus is the greatest thing next to sliced bread. So here we are talking about how to read the abacus, and I have 5 and I have 6. So now I have 6. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you so much for the likes. Okay, so we have 6. We have 5, 6. Just like on the die, right? Just like on the die, we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that because I have 6, I have to like split them, right? Because it'll be 3 and 3. Oh, okay, that's 6. Well, on the abacus, I know that this is 6. Why? Because this is 5 and this is 6. And then we have 7, and we have 8, and then we have 9. Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for sorry. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you so much for the likes. Let me know if anybody has any questions. I'm going to continue on learning how to read the abacus. Everybody needs to learn how to read the abacus, no matter where you are. Like when I learned the abacus, I was already old. I didn't learn abacus when I was a child, but my kids learned abacus when they were a child, and they hated it. But when they got to school, they loved it because they knew what they were talking about and they understand what was going on. So what does the abacus do? Abacus is great because it provides math skills, math foundations for the kids. Good morning, trying to teach myself as an adult. Yes! You know what? It is very possible. We just take it slow. That's all we're going to do. We're going to take it slow. You know why? Because it's a new thing for us. Like we get taught this, right? And then we're being taught the new math. Well, my kids are old, so I don't know the new math. But when the new math comes around, it's actually quite easy. You know why? The reason why it's easy to do the new math is because they're talking about, using other manipulatives. So some of the manipulatives that they use is this and these blocks, right? Some of the manipulatives are using these, which is a die. Not a problem. Well, which is interesting because I do understand that nobody knows what this is. And so I think the abacus is the greatest manipulative. So why? Because we can count more. So we have 6, right? But then guess what? If we want to do 7, guess what? We don't have 7. But on the abacus, we have 7. Because how do we do it? We have 5, 6, and then 7. Good morning. Yes, I do have a YouTube. Thank you, Monty. Yes, I do have a YouTube. You can find me on Miss Lynette. The reason why I was kind of confused about the whole YouTube channel thing, because I wasn't sure if I was talking to adults or if I was talking to children. So in my YouTube, I'm talking to both. but I think what I need to do is I need to split it. So I have one channel that talks to kids and one to talk to adults. But I think right now, because we're on TikTok and stuff, it's just easier to talk to adults because then I can just say, this is the greatest thing next to sliced bread. Because if I said that to the kids, they'll be like, what do you mean by that? That's how old I am. Okay, so yes, I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Miss Lynette, MSLYNETTE. Oh, that's my name. There you go. So if you wanted this book is available on Amazon. Take a look, and you can find it with my name. Okay, so going back now, let me continue on with this thought. With this Abacus book, this is about preschool, and this is, one of the things was just to show the children what the numbers are, how it relates to the numbers, and what the numbers are, how it relates to the abacus, and some activities. So it's not just monotonous like tracing and so forth. Like I have like other activities where I can do this. I have class in 10 minutes. Oh, fantastic. Cute, no bitch. Yes, thank you so much. Have a good day. I'm so happy you joined. The 10 minutes that I had, I'm super happy that I was able to connect with you. But yeah, I do have like activities for the children to go through. So that's what this is. And then we start talking about the before and after and so forth, right? Which is not a problem. And the reason why I talk about this is because I wanted the kids to know the relationship. But then we start going into adding and subtracting, and that's what we're going to do in this class. Not this, yes, this is a class. This is a class because we're all learning how to read the abacus. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with understanding how to read it first. So here we start 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have 4 beads. Not a problem, but there is a problem. The problem is I don't have 5 beads. I don't have any 5 beads, but the 5 bead is the top bead. That top bead has a value of 5. Because this top bead has a value of 5, I can now count higher than 4. I crack myself up sometimes. Okay, so we have 5, and then 6, 7, right? 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Notice I am using this as my ones place. Why? Because I have this label, this dot right here. This dot tells me that this is where I want to label my ones. You could do this dot, which is great. I would like to use the dot just so I know where I'm located, right? Like I know where home is. So that's why I'll be here. Just like when we write our numbers, right? We have 1. We don't have our 1 over off the page, right? We write 1 that we understand. So we have 9. So let me continue. If I do 5, this is 5, that's 5, this is 5, this is 5. Now these are all 5s, but it depends on the place value. It depends on the place value. I use my hands a lot. So I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to show that this is 5, which is fine because this is the ones. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm just continuing on. So this is 5, but what's the difference? Well, now we're at the tens place. So just like we write, right? We have the tens place. And I like more pictures. And that's what I noticed when I was doing my abacus. Like I needed to write a little more. Okay, so I need to find markers. Okay, so just like how we write, so we're doing 50. There we go. We're doing 50. So just like how we write 50. I don't know, maybe I'll do a Sharpie. So these are the 10s, and then these are the 1s. Easy, right? Simple. So when we do 50, this would be, anybody know what this one would be? I mean, if you follow the concept, right? If this is 1s, the 10s, and the 100s, right? So this would be, put in the comment what number you think this is. I'm going to change my marker. I don't like this. Put in the comment what number you think that is. Easy, right? Just going through the process. Let me know in the comment what you think number this is. So we have our 10s. We have our 1s, we have our 10s, and then we have our 500. Yes, Amanda, 500, right? Easy, super easy. Because just how we write it, I do like that better. Just how we write it is how we read it. So if I do 500, then we all know that this would be 5,000. Yes, Branson. So we have 5,000, right? And then after 5,000, we have 50,000. So the other reason why there was a question, why do we have so many dots? Well, it's kind of nice to know that if I start here, then this would be my thousands place, right? So it's easy to see, because if we have a bunch of numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 10, 6, 7, right? So if we have a bunch of numbers, it's harder to see. But if we start breaking up into threes, right? 6, 0, 3, 4, and then 1. Isn't it easier to see? That's the same thing with the dots. The dots just makes it easier to see. So we know that we have our 7. That would be 7. This would be 6. This would be 5. This would be 4. See how 4 is in the thousands? That's where my last dot is. I can't go anymore because my abacus is not big enough. But you can get a bigger abacus. This one happens to be a 7-column abacus. They come as big as 13 columns, and I had to write it down because I kept counting it on. I kept counting online. So this one's 13 because I don't memorize. I actually don't memorize stuff like that. So anyways, so this is a 13 column, and then thank you so much for following me. Yeah, let me know. And if you have any questions, let me know. So this is a 13 column, and it's the same concept, right? It's just one tone, and it's interesting because we have our different dots. We have this one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 different dots. This one happens to start in the very end. Why is it different? Because on the bigger one like this, on the 13 column one, I would start in the middle. And I kind of like the ASMR. It's nice when you have like a whole room of kids and all you hear is. There is a competition abacus, and that's what this would be. Because this is 23 columns, and it's pretty long, right? It's pretty long, and it's the same thing. It's the same. It works the same. It's just a different color, and yeah, it's just a different color and smaller and just smaller. This one just happens to be like really small, and the beads are small, and the columns are long. This is 23 columns, and it's still the same concept, right? So we still have our counting. We still do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 5. Oops, 5. Right, just we have like 5 here. I'm going to line up my dots so it looks like that. So we have 5 and 5. So the dot is just different starting points. You can pick whatever you want. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Marin. Yes, exactly. The dots is just a label for us to figure stuff out. So on the smaller one, I could go here as my ones, or I can go here as my ones. I like to use this one so I have bigger numbers, because usually when we do numbers, it's usually bigger. If you're here in the middle, then I have more to go in the front and more to go in the back. So just like what we do in when we write our decimals. So if I did $5.25. Notice that these are place values. This is the ones, this is the tens, this is the hundreds. I had a little brain fart. So just like here, when we look at it, we have our ones. Right between our ones is our decimal, and then we have our tenths, and our hundredths. Make sense? So then it's the same thing here. Now if I have my place value here in the middle, I have all of these numbers to be smaller. So I can make it smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Or I can have a huge number. Or I could start from here as my ones and have a really small number. Or I could start from here and have a really big number. So it is very flexible in where you want to put it, depending on what the question is. Usually in this sort of abacus, I would start in the middle. Yeah. Thank you so much for the question. Thank you so much for the question. Let me know if you have any more questions. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it was just interesting going down this journey of trying to relate abacus to school. Because we're not being taught with school. How now? Wow, I learned how to use an abacus today. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm hoping I'm adding excitement to your life. Because it's really quite amazing. Like, when we get to it, we can start doing like adding and subtracting. And the funny thing is adding and subtracting is kind of boring. But if you notice, there's a pattern to it, and I was like blown away, and I was like, there's got to be a way to do this. Okay, so in abacus, what we do is we actually have these patterns. It's a little bit overwhelming. Let me see if I can find a smaller one. Oh, I know where it is. So what I did was I broke up like how my abacus, there's like formulas that we do. Oh, here it is. Let me do this one instead, because this is overwhelming, right? So that was just for mine. Okay, so here is my addition table. I don't know if students are given addition table, right? But in the addition table, we're given like, oh, 1 plus 1, 2 plus 1, and so forth. It's like, okay, fine. But you know, the interesting thing, it's not funny, but the interesting thing is in mainstream school, we focus on the answer. We don't focus on the process. In Abacus, we actually focus in on the process. Now, what's the difference? Do you have a digital version of the book? I do have the digital. I just got the digital version of the book. And you can find it on my website. It's learningwithlynette.com. It's on my website. If you want to send me a DM, I can send you the link. Because somebody else was asking for it. And I was like, really? Okay. But anyways, this is available on Amazon, but it's also available on my website. And I do have it available. Okay. So going back to the addition table, it was kind of cool. The interesting about it. Okay, so the video that I saw on YouTube, because we always learn from YouTube, right? You can learn Abacus on YouTube, perfectly fine too. But I think my stuff is more entertaining, interactive. Okay. Anyways, so the question was 5 plus 3. Okay, 5 plus 3. That's easy, right? We know, like, as adults, we know, okay, that's 5 plus 3. But on the Abacus, how does that work? On the Abacus, we add the 5, we add the 3. Notice that we have enough beads, right? If I add the 5, do I have enough beads to add the 3? Yes. So I have the 3. Now, woo! Okay. And then in the video, they're like, oh, great, 8, woo! Okay. So the next question was 7 plus 1. 7 plus 1, yeah! Now, on the Abacus, if I look at it, 7 plus 1. Easy. Do I have enough beads to add the 1? Yes, I do have enough beads to add the 1. So here it is. Oh, no, sorry. 7. 5, 6, 7. And I add the 1. So what do I have? I have 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. I have enough beads to add the 8. Add the 1. So my answer is 1. But again, the celebration was like, yay, you got 8. Okay, not a problem, not a problem. The question goes into this one. Now, this one is a little bit loaded for Abacus. Why? Well, in Abacus, we don't learn doubles. We don't learn doubles. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on in. Come on in. We don't learn our doubles. What we learn is the process. Now, what does that mean? Well, in regular school, we're like, okay, 4 plus 4, memorize it. 8. So in the video, they're like, yay, it's 8. Whoa. Okay. Now, here is 4. So I add 4 on my Abacus. Now I need to add this 4, right? When I add this 4, notice I don't have enough beads to add the 4. Okay, what's going to happen? Well, we got to figure out another way to add the 4. On the Abacus, it's a framework of understanding how to do a process, right? So in Abacus, we focus in what the second add-in is, or what we're trying to do. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to add this 4. In school, we're teaching children this thing called the 5 frame. And what the 5 frame does is they understand if I have 5 items, how do I make a 5? So one way to make a 5 is 4 and 1, right? So if I color in four boxes, then I have 1 left over. So my equation, my addition sentence. I'm laughing because I'm really trying to put in math terminologies to Abacus, and we don't use any of the math terminologies. That's why it's funny. So we're doing, and then there's another way to do it, right? It's 1 plus 4 is equal to 5. Well, in Abacus, we actually take it one step further. What we're going to do is we're going to figure out what is the pair of 4. The pair of 4, 4 plus what is equal to 5. We're giving this idea of how to understand the relationships of the numbers. So again, I would do another one where it'd be like, okay, if I did 1 plus what is equal to 5. So we have this idea, okay, if I have a 4, I need a 1. If I have a 1, I need a 4. Now why? Because I want to utilize this 5. This 5 is the key to this specific problem. Why? Because what we want to do is we're going to isolate the variable. I'm talking like this because we don't say this in Abacus. We just say memorize. But if I'm trying to relate it to mainstream math, what we're going to do is we're going to isolate the variable. To isolate the variable, I'm going to take this 1 and I'm going to move it to the other side of the equation, right? To the other side of the equal sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it. So I'm going to rewrite it over here, and I'll do, if I want to add the 4, Now I'm going to use the operators. The operators help us remember what we're doing. So when we have an operator that says +4, we want to add the 5, right? We want to plus the 5, the operation of adding the 5 or adding the 5, and then we want to take away the 1. That's the other thing I just found out is the word operators. Anyways, so what does that mean? So we're back to my question. It's a long process, but understanding where it comes from and why, right? And how it benefits to know the 5 frame. Now, how do I do this? If I want to add the 4, we're going to now substitute plus the 5 minus the 1. I'm going to plus this 5 and I'm going to take away the 1. So now my answer is 8. But notice it's a little bit more loaded than just memorizing your doubles. So that's the long version of understanding of how do we do the 5, because abacus is not foreign to math. It is math. It's just understanding how to utilize and move the beads. So welcome everybody. If that makes sense, I'm going to go back to showing everybody how to count on the abacus, just in case anybody get lost. So how did I do all of that? Well, what I do is I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. When I count to 4, how do I know that this is counted? I know it's counted because it's touching the horizontal bar. In the abacus world, we call it the beam. But we can also call it the horizontal bar. We can call it the bar. We could call it the line. I have students, they call it the line. But notice that the horizontal bar, these beads are touching the horizontal bar. This horizontal bar is what tells us that's being counted. So that means that these ones are all 0. That's another thing that I noticed. In regular school, we don't teach the children to start from 0. We teach the children to start from 1. But it's difficult to start from 1 on the abacus because when we start adding, we want to start from a clean plate. So that's why we want to start from 0. So the kids in abacus will always know what 0 is. We don't have to make a separate unit to say 0 the hero, right? Because you could see it on the abacus. You could see what we're trying to do. So now, but notice I have 4. We can subitize that. What does that mean? I can look at this number. I could say, oh, that's 4 because this can be 4. This is 4. This is 4. This is 4. These are all 4s, right? It all just depends on where we are. Now, notice if we have 4, how do I get to 5? Well, I got to stop fidgeting. How do I get to 5? Well, to get to 5, that's what the top bead is. The top bead always has a value of 5, no matter what, right? So this is 5, this is 5, this is 5, this is 5, and this is 5, right? All of these are 5. When it touches the beam, this is a very long 5 string. Okay, so I'm going to clear my abacus. Again, this is all nice and clear. This is all nice and clean, and we're going to count 5. And then the next number is 6. Right? So we have 6. How do I know? Because when we add 5 to 1, we get 6. And that's the interesting thing about that is that the children will see that if I add the 5 and I add a 1, that is 6. And then if I add 2 and I add 5, that's 7. And then if I add 3 and 5, that's 8. You can count it. 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you start counting, we can start counting on, and that's another kindergarten skill. A kindergarten skill, thank you so much for the likes. So a kindergarten skill is counting on. We don't necessarily want to count from 1. We can count from 5, which will lend itself into counting other places, right? So if I had this number, what's after this number? Well, we know this is 9. What's after 9 is 10. So how do I did that? Well, this is the 1s, this is the 10s. Just like how we write 50. Right? When we write 50, this is the 1, this is the 1s, this is the 10s. So just as we write 50, 0 and 5. So it'd be 1 and 0. So that's 10. This is 20, 30, 40, and again 50, 60, right? 60, 60, 70. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you so much for the likes. Woo, I'm already at 1K. It's okay. Anybody have any questions? Because I'm going to continue on counting and explaining what the abacus does and how it reads. How do we read the abacus? And I think that's the one thing that the barrier is like we don't understand what this thing is. So there is another one where there's an abacus that looks like this, right? And there's like 10 beads across, which is great. It'd be like having one of these but on a string. But the one, it's good to see, right? It's good to see the amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, I got that one right. So it's good to see, and it's kind of the same concept, right? If I move the one beat, that's off the screen. If I move the one beat here, then we know that this is 1 and this is 9. If we move the one beat, then they start counting. This is 2, this is 3, 4, 5. So the idea on the abacus that goes like across is the same, but the other thing is we don't do place value. We don't do place value on that sort of abacus. I don't know how you do the place value on that abacus. I know how to do a place value here. So we do our ones, our tens, our hundreds, and our thousands. That's why I think this one's a little bit more versatile. This one with the one abacus that goes right across. Thank you so much for the likes. The one that goes like this. I think it's great to show the quantity, and it's in a compact form, because we have these building blocks that we use, right? This is a tens, and then these are all the ones, and these are good too because it shows the quantity. But if we want to go from quantity to digits or to symbols, then I think after they graduate from seeing the quantity, they can move into this. It's up to you. You can continue on doing this for like higher math, because I think that's what they're starting to do now is in higher math. Let's say I think grades 1, 2, all the way to 5, because they're going to start doing how to do multiplication, and they're starting to use manipulatives to show quantity, like when they start doing arrays for thank you so much for the like. So I think when they start doing multiplication, they're like, okay, well, let me give you an array. I have an array is just a box, right? And I have 3, so there's my 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5. So then we count, okay, how many do we have? And so that's what they're doing in when we do abacus, we need to know our math facts. So knowing the array is fantastic. It's good to know. But then on the abacus, because we have to know our math facts before we can actually do multiplication. Thank you so much for the likes. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to continue on, but if anybody has any questions, it'd be great. So going back to this, I created this thing. Thank you so much for the likes and the share. Thank you so much. Okay, so here is the addition table, and the addition table that I notice, I don't know if they give this out, but I have it in different colors. The reason why is because the green here means that these are simple. What does simple mean? In abacus terms, simple means that we don't need to worry about a formula. We don't need to worry about an equation. So here I have 1, so I add the 1, and then I plus the 5, so I add the 5. So what I did is in this book, I added questions. I added questions. Now notice that the questions are very specific. I said 3 thumb up. The reason why we do 3 thumb up is because we're talking about the process, not the result. So what I want to do is this table in your book? No, you know what? I'm so sorry. This table is not in my book. Please email me and I'll send you a link to where that is. I didn't think anybody would like it. So I didn't put it in my book, but I should. I should put it in my book, but I don't. But message me and I'll send you the link for the table, and you can have that one for free. So what I did here was I had it where I'm talking about just the 2. Where am I? I'm had it where I just talk about the 2. So when I talk about the 2, I'm only talking about what does it look like to add the 2. So here I have my 2, I have 0, I add 0, and then I add 2. It can be these 2 beads, or it can be these 2 beads, right? Or it can be, if I have 1, it can be these 2 beads, as long as it's 2 beads. So the idea is to know that there's the process. There's the process of understanding. So we have 2 beads here, or it could be these 2 beads. So if I add 2 and then I add another 2, it's right there. So I have this one. It says 7, right? 5, 6, 7. If I have 7 on my abacus and I add 2 beads, it's these 2 beads. This is what we call simple. Why? Because I have enough to work with. Now, notice when I broke it up, now the question is, what about all these other colors? Well, this one is my 5 frame. The 5 frame, we don't, in the abacus world, we don't say 5 frame. In the abacus world, we say either the friends formula, the +5 formula, or the small friends, right? But in mainstream math, we're focusing on the idea of the 5 frame, and that's where we do the 4 + 1 = 5, and that's what this is. So if you notice, when I go through this book, this is the next book after After the preschool book, they'll start learning their plus five. After they learn the plus five, they go through the process of understanding how to add the four. So that's where we're adding the four. That's why it's in pink. Why? Because now we don't have enough beats to add this number. So when we have one, we don't have enough beats to add the four. So this is where the children would have to memorize the formula. When they memorize, they'll see the pattern. If I want to add the four, I know I need to add the five plus the one, or add the 5 minus the 1. And if you notice my fingers, you'll see that there's a pattern. So if I want to add the 4 here, so I have 2. I have 2. So what is my pattern? Plus the 5 minus the 1. And then when they see it and they do it, it will become more ingrained. It will become from working memory to long-term memory. But the idea is to go through the motions. We could do this in our head, yeah, right? But it's another thing to see the motion of plus the 5 minus the 1. I can say, I can talk about this blue in my face, till I'm blue in the face, but to see it, it makes a difference, right? To see that all I have to do when I want to add the 4, ooh, when I want to add the 4, I want to plus the 5 minus the 1. So if you notice, there's the relationship between the two. Now it gets even better because when I did this, somebody was having I forget who it was. They were like having trouble with the 6. And I was like, oh, if you notice, the 4 and the 6 kind of relates together. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now we're focusing on the 4. So if I add a plus 4, notice here I do 3 and then I want to add the 4. So I want to plus the 5 minus the 1. Notice that there is this pattern. If I want to add the 4, if I don't have enough beats to add the 4, I want to plus the 5 minus the 1. Let me know if you have any other questions. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to stay on for another 10 minutes or so because I'm going to stay on for another half hour because the kids don't really need my help. Okay. Anyways. Okay. Anyways. I'm continuing on. So when we add the 4, right, we have, so that was 7, right? The answer is 7. How do I know? 5, 6, 7. So depending on how old the child is, I made it into a little story. This one is easier too because it's already there. So what I did is if I have 2 and I want to add 4, I want to go to the cats in the tree. Why are there cats in the tree? Well, they like trees. I don't know why. But there happens to be 5 cats. So if there's 5 cats in the tree, I go to the tree and I call that's 5. I call that the top bead. So in the top bead is 5. But when I grab 4 cats, 1 cat runs away. Isn't that 3 that you're staring at? I think so. I'm sorry. That one? I'm sorry. I was kind of a little bit lost in my own thought process. In the starting. Here, yes. So I had 3, but notice I don't have enough beats for 4. I don't have enough beats for 4. So because I don't have enough beats for 4, I'm going to plus the 5 minus the 1. So when I was talking about earlier today, it was talking about in school, we're teaching children how to do the 5 frame. What is the 5 frame? Understanding. Oh, that was the reason why. Because we in school we're teaching the children what 4 plus 1 is equal to 5, and we also do 1 plus 4, right? We also do the reverse. The next one is knowing that the 2 and the 3. So when we do 2, it's the same concept, right? If I have 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, and then 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So when we know this concept, we can actually utilize the formula. In the abacus world, we call it a formula. In mainstream, we just call it an equation. So the equation that we need to know is if I want to add the 3, no, I'm not adding, yeah, let me do that. If I want to add the 3, I'm going to plus the 5, take away the 2. Now, in mainstream math, we don't want to do this, but in abacus, we want to. Why? Because we want to show the operation. We want to show the operator because we are trying to remind ourselves. We're trying to do less memorizing, right? So in abacus world, we do plus the 3, we show the operation. We want to plus the 3 is equal to plus the 5 minus 2. Now, one of my friends was like, why do you need to show the sign? Because we want to have a gentle reminder. Just like abacus is a gentle reminder of what we're trying to do. So when I have 4, let me start over. When I have 4 and I want to add 3, right? When I want to add 3, my reminder is I want to add the 5. So here I'm adding the 5. So when I add the 5 and I take away the 2. So again, I say, okay, there's 5 cats in the tree, and I'm going to grab 3 cats. So I go to the tree and I grab 3 cats, but then 2 cats run away. Yeah, yeah, great. To think, Toby. Yes. Let me know if you have any questions. Any problems, questions, I can answer them. If it deals with abacus. Do we do fractions? We don't do fractions, but you can kind of do the division on abacus. You can also do multiplication on the abacus as well. So, thank you so much for liking my live, and thank you so much for sharing and following me. Yes, Tequila Mockingbird, thank you for following me. So we're still going on to the fives. The reason why I'm focusing on this is because once the children needs to know once they know their fives, there's a pattern. And I'm like, oh my God, this pattern is fantastic. So here, if you notice, this is our ones. This is our simple. This is all the green, right? So what does that mean? That means that we don't have any formulas to worry about. So we have 5 plus 3, right? We have 6 plus 3, right? I have 3 beats. I have 3 beats. Now, if I go to the next column, which is the tens, it's the same kind of thing, right? I have 11, 11, and I want to add 4. So I don't have enough, so I need to go to the cats in the tree, add the 5 minus the 1. But notice the pattern, right? It's the same thing, except we have this one extra number. It gets more, but this is the pattern. And I thought that was really cool. And again, these are simple. Why? Because we don't need to worry about adding our extra numbers. So we have 1 and 5, right? 15. I'm sorry, I'm right here, 15. And I want to add 2. Is there enough to add 2? Yes, I just add these 2. So, yeah, it was really interesting. Like, I was building this, and I'm like, oh, okay, I just wanted to make it look good. Great abacus. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Let me know if you have any questions. So, it's just interesting on how like we don't show this in school. What we show is like we're just going to show the one column like this, but I think in abacus there's a framework, and it's easier to it's easier to develop critical thinking when you use the abacus. Why? Because now we have to start thinking about, okay, do we have enough beads to do this? Do we have enough beads? If not, what's another way? So when we start working with our numbers, those will be some of the questions that we need to ask. One of the questions was like, okay, if I add 3, do I have enough to add the 4? No, I don't. What's the next number I can try to use? Well, I can try to use the 5. How do I use the 5? I can add the 5 and take away the 1. It is like having a conversation. And I think that's what we're missing in abacus, in regular school. In mainstream school, we don't have a conversation. In mainstream school, we're just like, you know what, just do this. But I think we need to start asking, like, can I do certain things? So then I built this thing called, it's just a comic book strip thing, and I just started thinking about all the terminologies that we never use in abacus. We don't use the word substitution, but we do substitution, and in mainstream math we do that in algebra. So that was the one thing that I noticed, is that abacus is the gateway to more complex math. Why? Because we're building the foundation on how we move certain things, but it's also the process and the thinking and the framework. So when we look at the framework, one of the framework is, do we have... No, I didn't write it. One of the framework is there enough beads? If there's enough beads, then great. I'm just going to use what I have, right? Is there enough? Now the next thing is if I don't have enough, then what can I do? So then we actually show this concept of isolating the variable. Now in my classes, I don't tell the kids, because they're too young to understand what the isolating the variable is, right? Because the students that I have is like 3, 4, and 5. We're talking as adults, and so as I talk to other adults, or those people that understand math, or not even understand math, but the terminology that is being known in the math world is about isolating the variable, and that's what I did. That is what I did with this. I isolated the variable. I try to figure out, like, how do I work this formula? How do I work this equation? I keep saying formula because in the abacus world we call it formulas, but in the mainstream world we call it an equation. This is an equation, and what we want to do is we want to balance the equation. We want to balance the equation. So, but we don't say that in abacus. And that was the one thing that I was trying to do, is I was trying to relate abacus to mainstream math. Because why? Because it's exactly the same. It's just we don't use those same terminologies. And if you go to YouTube, I mean, I have a YouTube channel, but if you go to YouTube, they're going to be like, oh, you have to have the big friends and the small friends. And people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I was breaking it down. It's like, oh, we in school talk about the 5 frame. This is how we do it. And I go through the story, like not story, but I go through the background, like, okay, it's great, but school stops at here. Abacus takes it one step further. It supersizes it. It elevates it to the next level. And it's the same thing with the plus tens. Plus tens is the 10 frame. Now, why do I need to know the 10 frame? Well, in Abacus, we show and we solidify the concept of the addition fact family. Addition fact family. Again, this is another terminology that we don't use in Abacus. That's why sometimes my eyes roll the back of my head because I'm trying to remember terminologies. So in the 10 frame, it's the same concept. We need to try to make a 10. When you hit the real working world outside of school, this is pointless. Teach them memorize schedule, amortization schedule. Yeah, we could do a memorization schedule, but if they don't know how to do a multiplication division, it would be a little difficult. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show how easy it is and understand the fundamentals. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Ink. It is pointless to a point, but we do need to know, right? We do need to know that if I have 2 items, these are 2 items, and then if I wanted to build my garden bed, I need to understand how to do it. So it's not necessarily pointless, right? We are building from like the old, Greeks and the whatever, right? The Romans and, all the old people back in the day before our time, right? We're learning from them. So if we're learning from them, our knowledge that we know in school is not necessarily wasted. It's not pointless either because we build. It's just like a journey, right? Now I'm going motivational. It's just like a journey. If I have one bad experience, was that a learning point or was it pointless? Excuse me. No, it was not pointless, and it was a learning point. So now I know that if I fail here, then how do I make it that I'm not failing? So the idea for, when we go through school, I am fine with either going school, unschooling, or whatever. Going through academics, it's great. I would like to have a doctor that is certified, you know what I mean? So like we have these ideas and we have these people that talk about, we need to unschool, we need to I'm not here for a political view. You do you. I'm here about, I want to teach abacus, and if you're interested, that's great. If you're not interested, that's fine too. I'm okay with that too. I just want to show you how great abacus is in my world and how it's the greatest thing next to sliced bread. And I think it's a great thing. So sorry about the tangent, but it was just one of those things. Like I understand. Do I judge? I don't judge. I've gone through life that you do you, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. So going back to here in school, I know we're teaching children what the 10 frame is. So what is the 10 frame? So understanding, and that was the one thing is, my kids, when they were going through Common Core, I didn't have to worry about their arithmetic because I knew that they would understand with abacus. Because why? Because in abacus we actually do a lot of the Common Core because you could see it. So in the Common Core, one of the ideas was understanding what your 10 frame is. So one of the things was, how do you make a 10? One way is to plus 9 is equal to plus 10, right? Sorry, plus 9 plus 1 is equal to plus 10. I'm just using the extra add-in. I'm just using the extra operators. We usually see it like 1 plus 9 is equal to 10, and we assume that there's a plus here, which is fine. But then in abacus, that's where it stops, right? It stops right there. But in abacus, what we're going to do is we're going to isolate the variable. When we isolate the variable, let's say this is the variable I'm going to isolate. I'm going to isolate this variable, so I'm going to move this 1, I'm going to move it to this side of the equation. When I move it to that side of the equation, I'm going to rewrite the equation. When I rewrite it, when I want to add the 9, all I got to do is I need to plus the 10 minus the 1. When we plus the 10, what we just got to do is we got to go to the next column over. When we go to the next column over, that's what we do is we're carrying on. So you know how there's the I don't know if they're teaching this now, but in school, when I went to school, we talked about carrying on. So if I had 19 plus 9, right? I had the 9. So 9 plus 9 is 18, and I carry the 1. This 1 is what we do over here. So in Abacus, we already introduced the idea of carrying on. We already introduced the idea of regrouping. So what does that mean? So my question, so I have my question. If I do 9, let me do 8, right? 8's a better, because then we don't have to worry about learning our doubles, right? So if I did 8 or 4, I could do 4. Can I do 4? I could do 4. Can I do 4? Yeah, so I'll do 4, right? I want to add 9. Is there enough beats to add the 9? No, I don't have enough beats to add 9. So what can I do? Well, my next thing to do is I know that if I have a 9, my 9 pair, right, is 1. So it has the 10. So when I do that, I need to go to the 10 and take away the 1. So now my answer is, good morning, Apple. Good morning. You're up early. Yes, yes. You know, I get so excited doing, I get so excited doing live. It's so addicting because you know what it is I have a conversation with people, and when I have a conversation with people about Abacus, it's really quite exciting because for 20 plus years I actually never talked to adults about Abacus. I always talk to kids, and I just say, oh, and the kids will be like, oh, okay, that, you know, whatever, they just, you know, take in what I say. But it's nice to talk to adults about Abacus because I like the discussion and the conversation and how to project it to the mainstream math. But yes, thank you so much. Good morning to you, Bapple. Okay. So, so that was the one thing, is understanding the plus 10 formula. If that made sense. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? So when we're talking about the plus 10, the school stops here, but actually Abacus takes it one step further. Yeah. So when we take it one step further, it's easier to understand, you know, what we're trying to do. And it's kind of cool because, you know, taking this idea of understanding that the 10 is a carrying on, which I need to add to my little comic book, carry on. And the other one was regrouping. So these are terminologies being used in school. And we don't talk about that, and we don't say that in Abacus. We just say plus 10s. And that was the thing. So what we did is we isolated the variable, and then we did substitution. So when we did isolating the variable and substitution, then we focused in on the the frames, right? The 10 frame, the 5 frame, and the 10 frame. So Abacus is a lot about understanding, like, just like all around. So Abacus also gives a framework of providing critical thinking. So there's this one money person I was just listening to his live, and he was really exciting. He's got this energy, this ball of energy. I love watching him, and he talks about and you know, ink, and he was talking about, like, how do you retire, how do you live where, you know, you get enough money and stuff. And he talked about a framework, and he talked about critical thinking. And I was like, you know what, in Abacus, that's what we do, is we provide a framework, we provide a chance to do critical thinking. And as you understand it, how do you take that information, you move it into your older life, right? So the idea is, you know, when you understand a framework, can you utilize that framework and put it into, you know, higher thinking? So, and Abacus is the gateway to complex math. And it was just a revelation when he started talking about certain things, and I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. Because I'm not sure how it is in math, because I'm not a math teacher in the public school system, right? I'm just a regular person. You know, I learned Abacus as an adult, and I was just teaching Abacus to children that was interested, and they were mostly, you know, people around my neighborhood. Now I'm taking it to the internet, and oh, have a good day. Go to work. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'll see you online later. I'll be on live. I'm planning to go live. So, thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you, Monty. So, talking about Abacus and the framework, and yeah, when I learned it when I was old, right? But I taught it to my children. They, if I push them, they'll see the benefit, but they know there was a benefit. They just don't know anything outside of what Abacus is, because I mean, they were taught, don't get me wrong, they were taught what the mainstream school was, and I said, you got to show your work. No matter what, you need to show your work, whether you do it the Abacus way or whether you do it their way. You need to show your work. So I just gave them a framework of like critical thinking. So that's where we start like talking about, okay, if I have 2, is there enough to add 4? No, there's not enough. And so these are just little checklists that we put through in my mind when I start looking at the abacus, when I look at numbers. So that was the one thing I wanted to do, is talk about, math needs to have a conversation. Is there enough? No. What can I do? I can use the 5. The reason why I say that is because when we start doing multiplication and division, we don't do critical thinking. We just do just to do. But in abacus, we actually have a conversation. So let me see if I can find my question. Oh, you know what? I'll do it here. So one of the question was like 3 divided by 27, I think 59, right? That was one of the questions. Was it 59? I think so. So in school, the question is like, how many times, how many times, how many times can 3 go into 27? In abacus, we don't do that. In abacus, we actually have a conversation like, who is bigger? We actually do a comparison like, who is bigger? Is it the dividend or the divisor? And then from here, we actually start breaking it down. Who's okay? So I have 5 minutes. So just the idea is like having a conversation of what we're trying to do here. Who is bigger and what am I going to do with it, as opposed to how many times does 3 go into 20? How do I know to do 27, or how do I know to do 1? Well, in abacus we say, okay, well, who is bigger? The divisor or the dividend? Well, the divisor is bigger, so the rule would be you take these 2 columns, right? In mainstream math, it's like, oh, I can't divide 3 into 2, so I have to use the other column. I mean, that's kind of like splitting hairs. So, but in abacus, what we do is we try to figure out where our starting point is. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4. What we do is we count the number of beads. We count the number of digits here. So we have 4 digits here and 1 digit here, and we actually take away the digits so I know where our starting point is. Why? Because when we do it, we don't start from. If this was an abacus, we would start from there. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to be here. And then I have, okay, well, so when we talk about abacus, right, we say what times 3 is equal to 27 or less. We don't say it the other way, right? Because we don't memorize it the other way. We memorize it 3 times what is equal to 27 or less. That is how we memorize it. We have a multiplication table. That was another thing. We have a multiplication table. Another person made the realization, and I was saying, we have a multiplication table. Tell me, do we have a division table? I can't even say that word. We don't have a division table. We don't have a division table. I don't want to make a division table, but we don't have a division table, right? We know it this way. So why don't we rely and work with what we have? So if we have what times 3 is equal to 27 is easier for me to understand than 7 divided by, how many times is 3 divided into 7? I don't even know how to. Yeah, this is how I think. I think this way. So I go 9. 9 times 3 is equal to 27. So I have my 9. Thank you, Papel. I have my 9. And, oh, I didn't put in my thing. So after I know that this is where I'm going to put my answer, I need to put in my divisor. My dividend. My 2, my 7, and my 5, and my 9. That's what I was forgetting. So I'm going to put my answer here. So then I have to put my dividends over here, just like we do in the mainstream math, right? So it's 9, so I take away 20 and I take away 7, right? Because that's what we do. If we have 9, we take away 27, and that's my 0. Then what we do is we bring down the 5. Now we bring down the 5, that's regular math, but in abacus we compare who is bigger, is the dividend or the divisor. The dividend is bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our answer to this column. We're going to skip one column. So that's one other rule that we have to know. If the dividend is bigger, we're going to skip a column. That's how we do it. So the question is now not how many times does 3 go into 5? It's what times 3 is equal to 5. So the questions are reversed, and it depends on how the questions are asked, right? We don't say in the world how many times, well, I don't know. How many times can I put it? Okay, so it's 3 times what is equal to 5 or less? Anybody? We know this, right? 3 times. Put it in the chat what number you think it is. Hi, Art. Matrix. Ah, thank you, Bapple. So it's 1. You're absolutely right. So we add the 1 to the abacus, right? And so 3 times 1 is equal to 3. So I take away the 3. Again, we talked about how to take away 3. Is there enough to take away the 3? No, there's not enough. So what do? We do the 5-frame equation. Do we remember what the 5-frame equation is? If I want to take away the 3, if I look at it, I want to take away the 2 is equal to minus the 5, right? Negative 5. We don't do negatives, but the idea for the negative is taking it away from the horizontal bar. So when I rewrite this and I isolate the variable, again, this is all building blocks that we learned from before. We take away the 5 and we plus the 1, plus the 2. So I take away the 5 and I plus the 2, just like that. Okay? So now my answer is 29. No, that should have been 27. I have to have a better, so it's 27. Because it's better if it rounds out to a 0, right? So now the question is I checked my dividend with my dividend with my divisor. Who's bigger? My divisor is bigger. So I'm going to put my answer here. Now what times 3 is equal to 27 or less? 9 times 3 is equal to 27. So I take away 2 and I take away 7. And that's it. That is it. That's about division. So that's what I notice. And like when we do division, we do it in regular school. We do it forward, which is the tens, the hundreds, tens, and ones. But in multiplication, we do it backwards. But in abacus, we do it forward. Yeah, it was one of those things. It was interesting to know like the way things go. All right. So thank you again, everybody, for joining me. I do got to get the kids up and ready for class, for school. It's about 7 in the morning for me on a Monday. So if anybody doesn't have any last minute questions, hi, Emily. I was just about to leave. And if anybody has any last minute, have a great day, Bapple, my Southern California friend. Yes. So if anybody have any questions about anything about Abacus, I will plan to come on live again, probably later in the afternoon or earlier in the morning. I'm not sure yet. But I just wanted to drop in and say hi to everybody and talk about Abacus. Because I love Abacus. Abacus is the greatest thing next to sliced bread. All right. So if there's no more questions, let me. If there's no other questions, I will leave this off and say, have a good day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for sharing my live, and thank you so much for giving me all the hearts. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye.